My shift on the construction site ended late, the kind of Friday evening when the sky above the city is bruised purple and the concrete smells of dust and rain. I drove home slowly, replaying blueprints in my head, thinking about tomorrow's schedule. I was tired, dirty, but looking forward to seeing my daughter, Katie. She'd been living with me since her mother, since everything fell apart. I counted the minutes until I'd hug her, hear about her day at school, watch her laugh at dinner. But I opened the door to an empty apartment. The silence hit first, not the comfortable kind, but the hollow kind, as if the rooms themselves had been drained of warmth. Lights off. No shoes by the door. No sound of homework or music. No sign of Katie. On the fridge there was a note, cursive, too neat. "Mark, I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I took Katie with me. I call her Love. Don't try to find us. Sarah, my ex-wife." My legs gave way. I sank against the kitchen counter, eyes fixed on the note. My mind swirled. Betrayal, panic, anger, confusion, grief. I felt my world crack. Everything changed in an instant. I spent the rest of that evening pacing, calling her number again and again. Each time, just a dial tone. No voicemail. No message. Nothing. I logged into our shared bank account on my phone, thinking maybe she took money to run. I found she had closed her card and frozen the line. The savings we kept for Katie's future? Emptied. Friends called when I didn't answer. I told them I had to work late on a project. It was true. The heavy construction contract still demanded presence, but work suddenly felt meaningless. I managed to sleep a few hours, but the gray dawn crept through the windows and found me restless. By noon, I was at the police station, sitting across a uniformed officer's desk. I explained everything: the note, the empty apartment, the missing money. He nodded quietly, took down my statement, promised they'd open a missing persons case, but the look in his eyes said what he couldn't say out loud. Unless there was immediate evidence, a parent simply taking a kid was complicated. Legal battles, jurisdiction issues, custody rights, they whispered. I felt more alone than ever. That same afternoon, driven by raw anger, I went to the house of my parents, people I trusted. I knocked the door with trembling strength. My father opened it, surprise on his face. I saw it flinch when I called him by name. "Did you take her?" I said, my voice louder than I intended. He swallowed. Something in his eyes flickered. Fear, guilt, regret. My mother stepped behind him, clutching the doorframe. "She's gone," my father said, quietly. We thought it would be better for her. We thought we were protecting her." "Protecting? From what? From me?" My heart thundered. Betrayal stung more than loss. "How dare you?" I hissed. "You stole my daughter. My daughter! From me." He tried to protest. She began to plead, but words failed, because the wound was too deep. The trust was shattered. I walked away, the door slamming behind me like a verdict. Days blurred. I skipped work, skipped meals, skipped sleep. The apartment we once shared turned into a mausoleum of memories. Her drawings, her small shoes, her favorite stuffed rabbit waiting on the shelf. I couldn't touch any of it. I boxed her toys and clothes, taped plastic over dusty memories, took photos. I wrote a letter. If she ever came back, if she ever decided to explain, it would be there. I sent it by registered mail to the only address I had, Sarah's old college dorm. The letter came back unopened. I quit my job. I abandoned the project. I canceled my phone line. I cut ties. No longer a father, husband, engineer. Just a man collapsing under grief. Yet, Beneath the rubble of my world, something stirred. A whisper in my mind. This cannot be the end. On a cold Saturday morning a week later, I met my old friend Mike in a quiet cafe. I hadn't called him. I just walked in, sat down across from him, eyes hollow. He didn't ask questions. He slid a cup of black coffee toward me. "You okay?" he asked softly. "No," I said, "but I will be." I told him everything, not asking for pity, not asking for solutions, just letting the pain out, folding it over the table between two steaming mugs. He listened. Then he leaned forward, put a hand on mine. "Mark," he said, "you lost your daughter. That's the worst. But if you stay like this, you'll lose yourself too. Get out of the apartment. Go somewhere new. Clear your head. Then decide what you'll fight for." His words felt like oxygen. Maybe it was time to breathe again. That evening, I packed a small bag. I sold what I could. Old furniture, the kids' toys, the meaningless reminders. I kept only one thing, a framed photo of Katie on her 5th birthday, smiling, holding a pink balloon, bright eyes shining. I signed the last papers on the apartment, handed keys to the agent, and walked away. I changed the password on my bank account, cleared old emails, disconnected utilities. I erased traces, not out of shame, but out of necessity. I drove out of the city, the skyline stuck in my rearview mirror like a broken promise. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know if I'd ever find Katie. I didn't know if it was reasonable to hope. But I knew I had to try. Somewhere on a long, dusty road, beneath a bruised sky, I stopped the car. I opened the back seat, took out the photo of Katie, stared at it until my vision blurred. Then I whispered into the wind, "I will find you, my girl. And when I do, nothing will ever tear us apart again." That night, I slept in the car. The road hummed beneath me. The wind whispered promises I wasn't sure I believed. But for the first time in weeks, I felt movement, not in my life, but in my soul. I decided to fight, because I had nothing left to lose, except hope. The next weeks unfolded in long, quiet stretches of road, highways turning into small-town streets, cheap motels into temporary shelters, silence into a strange kind of companion. I lived out of a single duffel bag, spending more time behind the wheel than anywhere else. My only constant was the framed photo of Katie strapped into the passenger seat, her smile steady, even as mine had disappeared. Every morning, I washed up in motel bathrooms, brushed my teeth with bottled water, and checked my email, hoping stupidly that Sarah had written something. Even an insult would have felt like connection. Instead, nothing. Every afternoon, I sat in local police stations across state lines, repeating the same story to new faces. My daughter was taken, I didn't know where. They were sympathetic. But sympathy wasn't action. One evening in a small town called Riverslope, the loneliness finally caught up to me. I had pulled into a roadside diner, the kind with neon signs that hummed like insects and windows that reflected a man I barely recognized. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, butter, and the faint exhaustion of people who lived paycheck to paycheck. I sat at the counter and ordered fries and a soda, the cheapest thing on the menu. A woman behind the counter with auburn hair tied messily into a bun approached me with a smile that didn't feel forced. "Haven't seen you around," she said. "Truck driver?" I shook my head. "Just passing through." She nodded slowly, as if she sensed more than I said. "Name's Harper. Let me know if you need anything." I didn't think much of her then. Just another kind stranger in a world full of brokenness. But later that night, after I returned to my car, staring at the dashboard clock blinking 11:03 p.m., I noticed movement behind me. Someone tapped on the window. Harper. "Hey," she said. "The sheriff's office closes at 8, but they leave a number on the door. I heard you asking earlier. I figured you might need it." She handed me a folded piece of paper. I hadn't even realized anyone overheard. "Thanks," I said, surprised. She shrugged. "Your whole face screams, 'Man looking for something.'" I guessed it wasn't money. That night, I didn't sleep in my car. She insisted I stay in the spare room above the diner, a small, dusty space with mismatched furniture and a quilt handmade decades ago. I didn't know why she offered it. Maybe she saw pain in me she recognized from somewhere in her own history. For 2 days, I stayed in River Slope. We talked about Katie, about Sarah, about the hollow ache of betrayal, about how it changes a man. She didn't interrupt. She didn't pity me. She just listened. And in her eyes I saw something unfamiliar. Not attraction, but recognition. Like she knew what it was to lose something that once defined you. One afternoon, she brought me coffee and sat on the creaky wooden steps beside me. "Mark," she said softly, "you remind me of my brother." I turned to her. "Why?" "He chased ghosts for years. Thought he could fix the past if he ran far enough." She paused. "The road can swallow you. Don't let it." I absorbed her words in silence, feeling them settle into places in my chest I had kept locked. A few days later, I got a call. Unknown number. Heart slam. Hope, like a knife. "Hello?" Static crackled. Then, "Dad?" My breath caught. I stood frozen on the diner steps. "Katie, sweetheart? Where are you? Are you okay?" A shaky breath answered me. "I'm fine. Mom said I wasn't allowed to call, but I miss you." My throat tightened until it hurt. "I miss you too. More than anything. Are you safe? Is she—" A voice cut in. Sharp. Angry. "Sarah. Katie. Give me that phone." The line went dead. I stood there, trembling, the phone pressed to my ear long after the call ended. Harper opened the door behind me, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just wrapped her arms around me, and for the first time since my world fell apart, I didn't fight the comfort. That call changed everything. It wasn't just emotional proof that Katie wanted to come home. It was legal evidence. A child contacting a parent in distress, being cut off abruptly. It mattered. I drove to the River Slope Sheriff's Office the next morning. They helped me file a new report, forwarded it to neighboring states, and attached the phone log. They even connected me with a local attorney, who agreed to help remotely. For the first time in months, the ground beneath me felt solid. That evening, Harper made me dinner. Grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, something warm and peaceful that smelled like a life I had forgotten. We ate in the small diner kitchen, lights dimmed, the world quiet. After we finished, she looked at me across the table. "Do you know where you're going next?" I shook my head. "No, I'm just waiting for a lead." "Well," she said, brushing hair from her face, "until you get one, you can stay here. You don't have to keep running." I stared at her, at the sincerity, at the steadiness. I didn't deserve kindness like hers, not after failing my daughter so completely. But she smiled, soft, gentle, unafraid. "Mark," she whispered, "you're not broken, just lost." Something inside me cracked, but not in pain, in release. That night, I slept longer and deeper than I had since the day I found that note on my fridge. The next morning, I stepped outside, stretched, and felt something strange warming my chest, a feeling I barely recognized. Hope. I thought nothing could surprise me anymore after that night at the bar, when Nora, my wife, showed up with her lover and tried to arrange a talk between the three of us. But I was wrong. The next day turned into a nightmare I never saw coming. I woke up to someone banging on my door. I hadn't even made coffee yet. My thoughts were still foggy, my chest still tight from last night's mix of anger, humiliation, and sleeplessness. When I opened the door, I froze. It was Nora. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Smudged mascara, stains on her sweater, hair completely messed up. But even that wasn't the worst part. It was her expression. That strange, insistent look, as if she genuinely believed she had the right to show up and talk. "We need to discuss last night," she said, and stepped inside as if the apartment still belonged to both of us. "No, we don't," I said, blocking her path. "You said everything. You're not my husband anymore, remember?" She sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "You misunderstood. I wanted us to talk, all of us, calmly. In a bar, with your lover?" I almost laughed. "That's your definition of calm?" She pressed her lips together. He wanted to be honest, and so did I. I thought that if you two met, if you saw how good he is— "Oh, he's amazing," I cut in, "especially when he told me, 'Your wife and I have been together for a long time.' That really made the evening." Nora rolled her eyes, irritation flashing across her face. "You're being dramatic. You always do this. I came so we could find a solution. We've lived so many years." "Not we," I said. "You. You lived those years the way you wanted." She opened her mouth to argue, but right then her phone buzzed. She checked the screen and quickly hid it. But I saw the name. Artem, with a heart, of course. "Oh, perfect," I said. "You're honest and good man." "That's not what you think," she murmured. "What do I think?" I felt heat rising again. "That you invited him here too? So the three of us can have another conversation? This time in my home?" Nora stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I came because I was scared," she whispered suddenly. "You left so fast yesterday. You looked broken. I couldn't sleep. I thought you might do something stupid. I thought you might lose control." I stared at her. Was she serious? "You destroyed our marriage," I said quietly. "You destroyed me. And now you stand here pretending you care?" "I'm not pretending," her voice cracked. I got confused. I didn't want to hurt you. You cheated, repeatedly, and lied the whole time. How do you do that without hurting someone?" She wrapped her arms around herself, turning away as if she was cold. Her phone buzzed again. She checked it, then exhaled nervously. "It's him. He's here. He's worried about me." "Great," I said. "Let him take you home." She stepped toward the door but stopped. Then she said something that knocked the air out of my lungs. "You don't understand. I want you to listen to both of us. Today. Together." "You're insane," I said, staring at her. "You seriously think I'll sit and listen to you two explain your love?" "It's important," she whispered. "For all of us. For him, maybe. For you, definitely. But for me? No, I don't need anything from either of you." But she wasn't listening anymore. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Heavy, confident footsteps. And Nora whispered, "Please, don't start yelling. He thinks you're dangerous." I didn't even have time to ask what that meant before he appeared in the doorway. Artem, smirking, acting like he owned the place. "So," he said, looking me up and down, "shall we talk like adults?" And that's when I realized this conversation would not end peacefully. Artem crossed the threshold like he had every right in the world to be there. His shoulders were broad, movements slow and confident, the kind of confidence that comes not from strength, but from stupidity, wrapped in ego. Nora stood between us, wringing her hands, as if she were mediating two children instead of being the reason any of this was happening in the first place. Artem glanced at her, then at me, then smirked. "You don't look as scary as she said," he noted. "Oh?" I raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly did she say?" He folded his arms. "That you're unpredictable, that you might snap after everything." I turned to Nora. She avoided my eyes. Of course. The cheater always paints themselves as the victim. "So," Artem continued, strolling deeper into my living room, "we came because we want to clear the air. Start over with honesty." I laughed, loudly. "You want honesty?" I asked. "Fine. Let's start with this. Get out of my apartment." Artem's jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "See, this is what I meant," he said to Nora. "He doesn't want to communicate." Nora touched his arm like he was some fragile creature. "He's hurt," she whispered. "No," I snapped. "I'm disgusted. That's different." Artem stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You can insult me all you want, but you won't talk to her like that." I took a slow breath. This man, who slept with my wife, now stood in my home giving me rules. "Let's do this," he said. "Sit, talk, like grown men." "No," I said, quietly, firmly. "I'm not doing this with you." I turned to Nora. "And you, I want you to leave, right now. This isn't your home anymore." For a moment she actually looked guilty, but then Artem spoke again, low, calm, smug. "He deserves the truth." I faced him. "And you deserve a mirror." He blinked, confused. "You want honesty?" I continued. "Here's honesty. She's lying to you too." Nora stiffened. Artem frowned. "What are you talking about?" "You think you're the only one?" I asked slowly, letting each word sink in. "That you're special? Unique? That she sneaks around because she loves you?" Nora's breathing sped up. "Stop," she whispered sharply. Artem's eyes flicked between us. "She cheated on you," I said. "Now she's cheating with you. And later, she'll cheat on you. Same story, different guy." "That's not true," Nora snapped. "You're twisting everything." "I lived with you," I replied. "I know exactly how you work." Artem's fingers curled into fists. "Don't talk to her like that." "Why?" I asked. "Does the truth hurt?" He stepped closer, too close. "That's enough," he growled. I didn't move. "You walked into my home," I said quietly. "You slept with my wife. And now you think you're going to intimidate me?" Artem smirked. "I'm not trying to intimidate you." "Then what are you trying to do?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "I'm trying to make sure you don't get in the way." My chest tightened, not from fear, but from pure cold anger. "And what exactly does that mean?" "It means," he said, "that Nora and I are going to be together. Whether you like it or not. She chose me. You need to accept that." Nora whispered, "Artem, stop." But he didn't. "You had your chance," he said. "You lost her. And honestly, after talking to her, I get why." I froze. Nora gasped softly. She hadn't expected him to go that far. Artem misread my silence as weakness. He straightened up proudly. "So," he said, "let's finish this conversation like adults." I stepped back, not from fear, but to keep myself from doing something I'd regret. "You want to end something?" I said quietly. "Fine, here it is. I'm filing for divorce today." Nora inhaled sharply, color draining from her face. Artem blinked, thrown off. "And one more thing," I added, pointing to the door. "Get out." Artem opened his mouth, but this time Nora grabbed his arm. "Artem, let's go," she whispered. "Please." He hesitated, but finally stepped back. Not because he wanted to, because he realized he had already lost whatever little power he thought he had. Nora followed him out, looking back at me just once, eyes wide, terrified, as if she'd thought she'd have control until the very end. But she didn't. The door closed behind them, and for the first time in months, my home felt quiet. Too quiet. I collapsed onto the sofa, covering my face with my hands. I'd won nothing. I'd lost everything. And yet, I finally felt like I could breathe, but I didn't know that this was far from the end. Because sometimes when people lose control of you, they try to destroy you. And Nora was just getting started. For 2 days, the apartment stayed painfully silent. Too clean, too empty. I kept expecting to hear Nora's footsteps, the soft patter she made when she walked barefoot across the wooden floor. But the only sound that came was the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of her I thought I had. There's a difference. On the 3rd morning, my phone buzzed. "Nora, we need to talk. It's important." I stared at the message, felt nothing, and tossed the phone aside. 2 seconds later, another text. "Nora, if you ignore me, it'll get worse for you." That one froze me, not because I believed she could actually hurt me, but because of the tone. That wasn't guilt, or sadness, or regret. That was a threat. I typed 2 words. "Me, do your worst." A minute later, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I answered anyway. "Hello?" A voice I hadn't heard in years responded, "Mate, it's Andrew. You home?" My chest loosened. Andrew, the same friend from the pub. The one who'd warned me about the stranger watching me. The one who trusted me enough to share everything about his own divorce. "Yeah," I said. "What's going on?" "I need to come over, now." His voice was too tense, too sharp. I straightened. "Is something wrong?" He hesitated. "It's about you," he finally said. "And your wife." My stomach dropped. "Come over," I said. "Door's unlocked." Andrew arrived in under 15 minutes, still wearing his police uniform. That alone made my pulse spike. He stepped inside, closed the door, and let out a breath. "I need you to stay calm," he said. "Calm?" I repeated. "Just tell me." He took out his phone and showed me a message, a forwarded screenshot. From Nora. She had messaged Andrew's ex-wife, Andrew's sister, and apparently half the people she knew. The message said, "If something happens to me," it was him. He threatened me. He attacked Artem. I left because I feared for my life. My blood went cold. "What?" I whispered. What?" Andrew nodded grimly. "She's building a case," he said. "Or trying to." I stumbled back and sat down heavily. "She's lying," I muttered. "She's lying because I kicked her out." "I know," Andrew said. "But she's not stupid. She knows how these things go. A woman says she's afraid. People react." I rubbed my face. "I didn't threaten her. I didn't touch Artem. He came into my house." "I know," Andrew repeated. "But that's not the point. The point is what she's trying to make other people believe." He sat down across from me. "She wants control back. And when people like her lose control, they weaponize everything." I swallowed the rising anger. And Artem? Andrew sighed. That's the other thing. He showed me another message, a new one, from another unknown number. Tell him I'm not done. He thinks he can disrespect me. He's going to regret this. It wasn't signed, but it didn't have to be. Artem. So now I wasn't just dealing with Nora's lies, I was dealing with him too. Great, I muttered. So what now? They both come after me. Andrew leaned back, thinking. You need to protect yourself, he said. Starting now. Don't meet them alone, don't respond emotionally, and don't let them bait you into something stupid. I laughed bitterly. This feels like a bad movie. No, Andrew said. This is real. This is what people do when their ego breaks. We sat in silence for a moment. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from Nora. Long, emotional, dramatic. Please, can we meet? I need closure. I need to explain. I want to do it face to face so we don't misunderstand each other. Andrew read it over my shoulder. That's bait, he said instantly. She wants a reaction, a fight, a scene she can use. I nodded slowly. But then the second message came. And this one hit differently. Artem wants to apologize too. We can meet together. All three of us. Just to settle everything peacefully. Andrew blinked twice. Then he looked at me as if I'd just told him I planned to eat a live grenade. If you go to that meeting, he said, you're an idiot. He grabbed his jacket. I have to get back to the station. But listen carefully. Whatever they're planning, it's not talking. It's not closure. It's not peace. What is it then? I asked. He paused by the door. It's a trap, he said. And if you walk into it, you'll lose more than your marriage. After he left, I stood in the hallway, staring at the messages Nora kept sending. One every few minutes. Begging, threatening, crying, sweet, manipulative. They came in waves, all different tones, like she was cycling through characters, trying to find one that would work on me. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the sickening realization that I didn't recognize my own wife anymore. I started typing, then stopped, then typed again. One message, one sentence, sent. If you want to talk, I choose the place, alone. And within 10 seconds, she replied, okay, send the address. No hesitation, no drama. That scared me more than anything. I set my phone down, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall. Because Andrew was right. This wasn't about closure. This wasn't about peace. This was about control. And people who lose control, they're the most dangerous of all. I didn't sleep that night. The house was too still, too quiet. Every creak sounded like footsteps, every shift of the wooden beams like someone breathing behind me. I wasn't scared, not exactly. But something primal inside me was sharpening its claws. Before sunrise, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of untouched coffee, scrolling through my phone. There were 11 new messages from Nora, some angry, some desperate, some strangely affectionate, and one from an unknown number again. See you soon, lawyer boy. Artem. It was like he wanted me to know he was involved, to rattle me, to set the tone. I exhaled slowly and opened my notes app. I typed a single location, a place I knew well, a place that wasn't isolated enough for trouble, but private enough for the kind of conversation Nora claimed to want. Harborview Cafe. Public. Cameras. People. Neutral ground. I sent the address. Nora's reply came instantly. I'll be there at noon. Alone. I didn't believe that for a second. Noon approached like a storm. The wind picked up. Clouds drifted overhead, and I kept replaying Andrew's warning. If you go to that meeting, you're an idiot. Maybe I was. But a man will do many stupid things when cornered, especially when truth is the only weapon he has left. I left early, driving to the cafe with the windows cracked open, letting the salty air cool my nerves. I parked across the street and stayed in the car for a few minutes, scanning the area. No Artem, no suspicious cars, no obvious setups. But I knew better than to trust appearances. I entered the cafe and chose a table in the corner, where I could see every entrance. The waitress took my order, and I kept my back to the wall. 5 minutes passed, 10, 15. Then she walked in. Nora. Her hair was done, too perfectly. Her makeup was subtle, the kind she used when she wanted sympathy. And her eyes were red, like she'd cried on purpose. She spotted me instantly and walked over, her movements a mix of hesitation and rehearsed fragility. When she sat down, she didn't speak. Neither did I. Silence forced her to show her real cards. Finally, she exhaled. "You look tired," she whispered. "I wonder why." Her jaw tightened. "I didn't come here to fight." "That's lucky," I said, "because I'm done fighting." She blinked hard, probably not expecting me to take the position of someone who already moved on emotionally. "Look," she said, leaning forward. "I know you're angry. I know everything went too far. But Artem and I held up a hand. Don't say his name like it's normal. Like this situation is normal." She looked away, ashamed, or pretending to be. "I broke things," she said softly. "But you weren't perfect either." I laughed once, quietly. "There it is," I said. "The shift. Right on schedule." She stiffened. "What shift?" "The one where you go from victim to martyr to judge," I said. "You've been cycling through those personas all week." Her cheeks flushed. "That's not fair." I leaned back. "You're not here for closure," I said. "You're here to rewrite the story, to twist it, so you don't look like the villain." Her expression hardened just slightly, enough for me to finally see her real face beneath the layers. "Do you know what Artem told me?" I continued. "He said he wasn't done. He said I'd regret disrespecting him." Nora swallowed. "You talked to him?" "He talked to me," I corrected. "He made sure I knew." She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "He shouldn't have done that." "No," I said. "Neither should you." The waitress placed iced tea in front of her and left. Nora didn't touch it. She stared at me like she was searching for a weakness. "Can we just talk like adults?" she said. "Without threats? Without anger?" "I'm calm," I said. "You're the one trembling?" She looked down, and that's when I saw it. Her phone screen, lighting up in her hand. A message preview, Artem's name. I didn't read the text, but I didn't need to. "You said you'd come alone," I said quietly. "I did." I raised a brow. "And yet he's texting you right now." Her face went pale. He's not, Nora," I cut her off. "Is he here?" She froze. I saw her eyes shift, just slightly, past my shoulder, toward the street-facing window. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I wasn't most people anymore. I stood up slowly. "Nora," I said evenly, "if I turn around and he's outside, this conversation is over. Forever." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I turned, and there he was. Artem, standing on the sidewalk. Sunglasses. Arms crossed. That stupid athletic confidence dripping from every line of his posture. He wasn't even hiding. He wanted me to see him, wanted me to know he was part of this meeting, wanted me to understand I wasn't walking away from this without a confrontation. I breathed out once, controlled and cold. Then I faced Nora again. "This is the last time you and I will ever speak privately," I said. "The last time I give you any benefit of the doubt." She reached for my arm. "I didn't ask him to come," she whispered. "I believe you," I said honestly, "because you don't control him any more than you control the truth." Her lip trembled. "Please don't leave." But I stepped back. "Goodbye, Nora." She looked like she wanted to scream, cry, grab me, anything to stop me from ending the scene her way. I walked out of the cafe, my pulse steady, my breathing even. And when I reached the sidewalk, Artem smirked. A slow, patronizing smirk. "Leaving already?" he asked. "I thought we were finally going to settle things." I didn't answer. I didn't even look at him. I walked right past him. Because Nora had lost me. But Artem? Artem had no idea what he'd just started. The night fell fast, but I didn't feel it. The city lights blurred past the windshield as I drove aimlessly, hands gripping the wheel, jaw tight. The cafe scene kept replaying in my mind. Every flicker of fear on Nora's face, Artem's smug smirk, the way the world had tilted under my feet in mere seconds. I parked near the old pier, a place I had visited as a teenager, when life had still seemed simpler. The salty air hit me, sharp and biting. I needed clarity. I needed to remember who I was, not who they thought I was. I sat on the edge of the pier, legs dangling over the water. The black waves reflected the city lights in jagged, trembling patterns. I pulled out my phone. Messages from friends, old and new, from people I hadn't talked to in years. They all blurred into one long chain of words I couldn't care about. Then I saw her message. It wasn't from Nora. It was from Lily. "Mark, I know what happened today. Meet me. Now." Lily, the woman I met months ago on the farm. The woman who had seen past the shattered shell of the man I had become. The woman who had started to remind me that life could still be lived. I didn't hesitate. I drove through the empty streets, past abandoned buildings and flickering streetlights, until I reached the little diner she had suggested. She was already there, sitting in a corner booth, warm light falling across her face, eyes sharp, yet gentle. She didn't smile. Not yet. But when she saw me, a quiet relief washed over her expression. "Mark," she said softly, "I didn't know if I should call or come." "You did the right thing," I replied. My voice was rough, tired, and raw. I need help." She nodded. "I know, and I'm not leaving until you see that there's a way out of this." For hours, we talked. Not about Nora, not about Artem, not about anger, revenge, or lies. We talked about the farm, the children, the life we had barely begun to imagine. I realized slowly that anger had been my blanket, a cover that kept me from feeling the emptiness inside. But with Lily I could breathe, I could think, I could hope again. When I finally left the diner, the first hints of dawn were brushing the horizon. The streets were empty, but the world felt different. I was different. Days turned into weeks. At the farm, I worked harder than ever. Every sunrise, every chore, every ride through the paddocks with the horses reminded me that I was still alive, and I could still choose to live. Lily came by often, sometimes staying late into the evening, and each time our conversations went deeper, became lighter, stronger. One afternoon she found me on the roof of the barn, staring at the valley below, lost in thought. "You're thinking about her again," she said, her voice quiet but certain. I am, I admitted. I can't stop thinking about everything. About the past. About her. About me. She sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder. Then think, but don't let it break you. You've survived worse, Mark, and you can survive this. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her, because I had a choice. I could continue to chase ghosts, consumed by anger and betrayal, or I could take this life, this second chance, and rebuild. And for the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt it. Hope. Weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Mark, it's Artem," the voice said. Sharp, mocking, dangerous. "Thought you could walk away?" I hung up, and I smiled, because I didn't need to fight him anymore. I didn't need to fight Nora. I had Lily. I had the farm. I had a future I could shape. Artem could wait. I had chosen life. And nothing, not betrayal, not loss, not fear, could take that from me. The mornings on the farm had changed. Sunlight poured through the windows of the small cottage, warm and golden, as if the world itself had decided to forgive me. I woke to the sound of chickens clucking, horses neighing, and Lily humming in the kitchen. The aroma of fresh bread and brewed coffee filled the air. I stretched, feeling muscles I hadn't used in years, the aches of labor mixed with a strange, satisfying exhaustion. She came to me, smiling, holding a plate with 2 cups of coffee. "Morning," she said softly. "You slept well?" "I did," I replied, trying to match her lightness, though the memory of past pain lingered at the edges. "Better than I have in a long time." We sat together, our hands brushing occasionally, small sparks that made me remember that life was more than anger and loss, more than betrayal, more than regrets. Days flowed into weeks, and weeks into months. The farm became my sanctuary. I worked alongside Bill, learning the rhythm of the land, the animals, and the chores that tied me to something real. I watched the seasons change, the fields grow green, the sheep lamb, and the children laughing as they ran through the pastures. And every day, Lily was there, not just beside me, but as a partner, a friend, a quiet strength that reminded me that love could survive even the darkest storms. One evening, after the sun had dipped below the hills, we sat on the porch, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange. "I never thought I'd see this," I said quietly, my voice breaking the stillness. "I never thought I could feel peace again." Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. "You deserve it," she whispered. "You fought through the worst, and now you're here, alive. You can let yourself be happy." I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of her presence. For the first time in years, I believed it. Then came the letters, messages, and finally the call from my daughter, Katie. She had grown stronger, wiser, shaped by the years apart, yet still the little girl I remembered. Her voice trembled when she said, "Dad, I've missed you." I didn't hesitate. "Me too, Katie. More than you know." We made plans. The farm became our meeting place, the bridge between past and present. The first reunion was awkward, filled with questions and unspoken fears, but love, patient, persistent, healed the gaps. I watched her laugh with the children, helping with chores, learning the ways of the land I had grown to love. Life, finally, had returned to its natural rhythm. I still remembered the pain, the betrayal, the nights when the world seemed to collapse. But those memories no longer held me hostage. They had become reminders of how far I had come. With Lily, we planned a future. Not one without challenges, but one built on trust, love, and the family we chose. And when Katie asked if she could stay for the summer, I nodded. Yes, this is your home too. Years passed, and the farm thrived. Katie graduated, started her own family, and I held my granddaughter in my arms, whispering promises that I would never let her feel lost the way I had. Lily and I married quietly, our vows whispered under the wide-open sky, the land stretching before us, like a testament to survival and hope. Every morning, I woke to the sound of life, laughter, animals, the wind rustling the leaves, and every morning, I remembered. I had been broken. I had been lost. But through patience, love, and courage, I had found my way back. The past had shaped me, but it did not define me. The future, bright, uncertain, alive, was mine to embrace, and I did.